And if the Eagles get what the Eagles want going into this season, there's going to be less of that this year. They want Jalen Hurts to hang in the pocket and throw it to A.J. Brown and throw it more to Goddard and throw it more to Smith, which, with all intents and purposes, should work and should keep the chains moving. But will it be that same kind of gain? I know the league is a passing league, and when a quarterback is running as much as Jalen did, he's putting himself at risk, and we know the Eagles care about putting people at risk. When in doubt, don't practice. It's a Wednesday hump day edition of Birds 365 as the countdown continues to the first day of the National Football League season, and even more importantly, the first day of Eagles camp, which is less than 3 weeks away. You got your boys, Mac and Mac, here to talk Eagles football for you for the next 2 hours, and a couple of good Eagle beat reporters joining us today. J-Mac, I saw your latest missive on JAKIBSports.com talking about the Eagles DNA and the fact that they stay true to it, and that's been kind of a key theme during this offseason, and most specifically on draft day. You and I did shows leading up to the draft as soon as the Eagles season was over and done with. Yeah, we talked free agency, but we started to look ahead to the draft and all the draft insiders we have on and making projections and the like. Should anybody be surprised that the Eagles, with 2 first-round draft picks, and remember, at one point they had 3 first-round draft picks. They ended up only taking 1, but with their first 2 draft picks, should anybody be surprised that they took an offensive lineman and a defensive lineman?
No, I mean, every once in a while, Howie lets it out and says it out loud. And this was one of those years because he was kind of talking about the debate. If you remember, in the second round, the claim was, well, if we didn't draft Cam Jurgens, we draft Nakobe Dean. We got him anyway in the third round. I don't, you believe that if you want, but when Howie was kind of describing that sentiment, he's like, we're always going to default to the lines. I mean, if it's offensive or deep, we're always, if it's even, they're going to default to the offensive or defensive line. And I don't have a problem with that. I really don't, unless it's a quarterback at the top of the draft. And then if you have players rated even, you might want to at least, entertain the impact of the position being so much greater. But other than that rare circumstance, and that's rarely going to happen because quarterbacks are generally rated above anyway because of that exact scenario. I don't have one iota of a problem with that. The issue for the fan base is it's not sexy. They want receivers. They want playmakers. They want skill position players. Or if it's defense, they want playmakers. And, Jordan Davis isn't, in theory, a playmaker. His role is going to be to make it easier for the playmakers. And I've said that, and I've used that word esoteric, and I'm a little worried about that, to be honest, Jody. I'm a little bit worried about the expectations, and if people can understand the impact a player like that is going to have on the game. I always point to Vita Vea in Tampa Bay. They seem to have done it down there just fine. So I would hope it happens up here just fine if he turns into that type of player. But I'm a little worried about that. You never worry about that receivers. Devontae Smith shows up and has a good rookie season. Everybody's like, yeah, Devontae, everybody sees it. It's right smack dab in front of them. But I always describe it, especially on the offensive side of the ball. You could have the best quarterback. You could have great receivers. Great running back, great tight end. If you can't block anybody, who cares? What are you going to do? If you can't block anybody, those guys can't do their jobs. That's where it all starts for me.
And the Eagles' offensive line is being ranked across the board not just McDonald and McMullen, and not just the Eagle Beat guys like Ed Kratz, who's going to join us coming up in about 15 minutes now. Not just Chris Franklin from NJ.com, who's going to join us in hour number 2. No, national publication, national outlets are ranking the Eagles as the best offensive line in the National Football League. So they've achieved what they wanted to on the offensive line. And, I've had this conversation before about Jordan Davis. I get it, but John Q. Public, average fan, is going to say, yeah, but McMullen, don't give me esoteric. There's Aaron Donald. He puts up numbers too, and he plays the defensive tackle position. So why can't Jordan Davis put up Aaron Donald-like numbers? Well, because there's only one Aaron Donald on the face of the planet.
Yeah.
And
kind
that's
of an
not
unfair comparison.
Yeah, you could compare anyone to him. It's probably a little bit unfair. But I'm telling you, that's what they're going to do, because you have to understand the whole concept about tackles not getting the same sacks that ends and or rushing linebackers do. And that's fine. But Aaron Donald kind of skews the whole conversation. And as I pointed out to you a couple of weeks ago here on the show, the thing that rubs even more salt in the wounds is they were both the 13th pick in the draft. So they were selected in the exact same spot in the first round. Yeah. So some people are going to want that out of.
But, for people in Philadelphia, maybe a good comparison would be like you take a defensive end, somewhere in the first round. Could be in the top 5, like Chase Young or Bosa or somebody like that. And you automatically expect him to be Reggie White. Well, the odds are against that. That's who Aaron Donald is, people. That's, he's one of the greatest defensive players who've ever lived. So I would not start any comp off with Aaron Donald, but that's just me.
Right. But the one reason why the fans will do it is Aaron Donald's still playing. Reggie, as great as he was, nobody's seen him in a decade. He's been out of the National Football League. God rest his soul. He is no longer with us either. That's why it's easier to comp to Aaron Donald, because guess what? He's going to play again this year, despite his wink, wink, nod, nod flirtation with retirement. Oh, shockingly, he got his contract renewed, and he's going to go at it again for another year. Way to go, Aaron. Yeah, that was a ploy to get his contract redone. He's still around. So that's why people are going to make the comparison between Jordan Davis and Aaron Donald. And he's just not going to put up those kind of numbers because nobody else ever has. I do want to get a Jalen Hurts point in. And we've talked plenty of Jalen this week. We're going to do so with both of our guests today, Ed Kratz and Chris Franklin. Great stat from our buddy Reuben Frank on NBC Sports Philadelphia's observation column comes out either Saturday, Sunday, at different times during the off season. But I think I saw it either Sunday night or Monday. I don't remember which. And he does a great job with some of the stats he comes up with. I had no idea that they were oftentimes the case. His stat of the week this week for Jalen Hurts was this. Players in the National Football League last season who rushed for 10 or more yards on any play. There were only 4 players in the entire league that had 10 yards or more on a run 29 times or 29 or more times this past year. Jonathan Taylor had like 50. Nick Chubb had like 35 or 36. Who was the other one? There was 3 running backs.
Dalvin, I think. Dalvin.
Yeah, Dalvin Cook had in the low 30s, and Jalen Hurts had 29. There were only 3 running backs who had more 10-yard or more gains in the league than Jalen Hurts. He was 4th in the league in 10-yard gains, and that's every other team's running back included, except for Cook, Chubb, and Jonathan Taylor. Here's my concern here, J-Mac. In the moment, you get all excited about it, but then it just becomes part of the yards gained when the game is over and done with. But those 10-yard bust-out runs by the quarterback not only move the sticks, get your first down, not only led to 10 touchdowns last year, but they were also demoralizing runs. that takes a bigger chunk out of a defense mindset. If the quarterback takes off and runs for 10, 12 yards, then an out to Devontae Smith who toe taps and gets out of bounds and stops the clock. You give that kind of play up, all right, let's go, reset the downs, let's go to. But when a quarterback does that, that can be kind of backbreaking to a defense. And if the Eagles get what the Eagles want going into this season, there's going to be less of that this year. They want Jalen Hurts to hang in the pocket and throw it to A.J. Brown and throw it more to Goddard and throw it more to Smith, which, with all intents and purposes, should work and should keep the chains moving. But will it be that same kind of gain? I know the league is a passing league, and when a quarterback is running as much as Jalen did, he's putting himself at risk. And we know the Eagles care about putting people at risk. When in doubt, don't practice. No one is talking about that. No one is mentioning this, that, if we pass it more, Jalen's going to be running it less. And he's pretty damn effective at running it last year. I just gave you the stat. Ruben gave it to you. I'm just repeating it. He was 4th in the league of 10-plus yard rushes last year. Could the Eagles be downplaying a key element of their offense?
Well, they want to. I guess it depends how you look at it. One of the things you use the term demoralizing, and the description that you gave is a perfect example of it. A little toe tapping reception versus, say, 3rd and 10, and you do everything right defensively, and all of a sudden the quarterback leaks out at the last minute, gets a 10-yard gain. That's demoralizing. Yep. On the other hand, if you got a 9-man box and you say, oh, we know Jonathan Taylor's going to get the ball, and you got everybody up there and you run it and you still run it for 10 yards, that could be even more demoralizing. So the reason I bring that up is it's different, right? Running backs, they're getting the ball. If they're going to run the ball, it's a design run. Quarterback, I'd love to see the number of Jalen Hurts. How many of those are designed? I would say not a lot. Probably, maybe there's a couple. I would say 80 to 90.
I think more than that.
Most of his big runs were off schedule, and that's a big part of his game. And that part's not going away. Let me ask you this: RPO, is that designed? Zone read is designed. RPO, it's a little bit more. It's a run pass option. It's built into the term. It's an option for the quarterback. Now, a lot of coaches use that as Chip Kelly used to do that as a sort of ball back and not let you in. Sometimes they call it a run. They say just run it. Sometimes they're calling a pass play, but they're called an RPO, acting like it's a run pass option on the play. Essentially, what you're supposed to do is read the one defensive player you're supposed to read, depending on what he does. You either throw the ball or run the ball. So it's in the ether. Do you consider that a design run or a design pass? Depending on the day, Nick Sirianni will tell you, well, that counts as a run. You heard that last year, remember, when he was getting criticism? Well, that counts as a run. That's a run pass option, even though they threw the ball. So it's kind of convoluted. But
that's why I think a lot of his successful running plays were RPOs. And yes, I, like Nick Sirianni, would consider that a designed running play.
Well, they
you just don't make the decision to that split second that in play, you got to make that call. But once you make that call, it's a designed running play.
Well, we had that discussion on the show last season, Jody, when he was throwing the ball. Instead, it's an RPO, and it counts as a run. You weren't on board.
No. Did Sirianni really try that?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Once the play is run, we find out whether it's a run or a pass. You got to put it down in the column that it ended up.
We even had that discussion on the show, and I'm with you. I'm like, you're stretching that.
No, that's fudging. No, that doesn't count. But if a guy takes if the quarterback takes off and runs with it, I consider that a designed running play.
But
even though a pass was part of an option at one point, you decide by what the play ends up being.
Either, my larger point is it's not the same as Taylor or Chubb or Cook. And Lamar Jackson's in this category as well. Those two led the NFL in yards per attempt. Lamar Jackson was 1, Jalen Hurts was 2. And then it was Taylor, Chubb, and Miles Sanders tied at 5.5 yards per carry. The quarterbacks were above. The quarterbacks are above because a lot of their runs are off schedule. You're not prepared. You're not, and you're right as far as the deviation of that being, what was the word you used? It can be very demoralizing for a defense.
Backbreaking.
When you pull that football down. That part of it, we can debate the other part of it. The Eagles definitely want to run the ball less. No question about it. But the off-schedule part of it, where you get so many of those explosive runs, that's not going away because most of that is off-schedule. So I don't think you have to worry about that as much as some people worry about. Maybe you get a few less RPOs. Who cares?
Let me ask you about some of those off-schedule runs. Will the team, when they actually have practice, I'm looking forward to that. They're going to actually have 11 guys on the field on offense and 11 guys on the field on defense. That will be very interesting with the Eagles since we haven't seen it since last February or January, excuse me. Will they drill down on Hurts that they want him to hold that ball that extra half second, that they want him to get that look at his fourth option, his fourth read, rather than just go, I'm out, and up the field he goes and tries to make 10 or 12 or 14 or 18 yards with his legs? Will that be an emphasis on the offense this year, that there's a reason why we got A.J. Brown, because we think he's going to get tighter coverage. So when you check down to Smith and you check down to Governor, damn it, Quez should be wide open. If you get to your fourth read and your first 3 guys were covered, he's got to have one-on-one coverage. You got to be able to get the ball to him. Will they emphasize he hang longer, wait longer, continue to give a guy a chance to get open rather than take off and make a play with his legs?
Yeah, I mean, I think they've emphasized that since he got here. I think Doug emphasized that. I think Nick emphasizes that. I think, coaches will emphasize that. But Nick has also said that, that's the conventional thinking because, it's easier to throw the ball down the field than to run it down the field. But, when you have somebody so effective as Jalen Hurts versus or Lamar Jackson, sometimes those runs turn into 20-yard runs. And if you dump the ball off to the back as a fourth option, maybe you get 10 yards, maybe you get 8 yards, maybe you get a more explosive play by running the football with those types. So it's a fine line, but they'll definitely press. Look, I think those days are over, Jody. What you're saying, the 4 progressions. I mean, who does that? Maybe Aaron on occasion. Of the young quarterbacks, it's 1 read, 2 read, go. Maybe 1 read, 2 read, safety valve, go. Jalen's going to be, I think where you want to get him is 1 read, 2 read, go versus 1 read, go. I think that's where you want to get him consistently.
I have, and it is now however many months since the season ended. The diehard Eagle fans that we have streaming with us here on Birds 365 certainly have that good a memory, but the kind of casual Eagle fan forget how important those runs he made last year was. That number brought it all back to me that, he used to make some really big plays with his, 10 rushing touchdowns, 10 rushing touchdowns. That one kind of jumps up and screams at you. And the Eagles have worked hard to improve their passing game, with A.J. Brown being the certainly biggest addition of them all. Oh, I can't forget Zach Pascal. He's going to come in and do huge things. Well, He's going to block. But he's now part of the passing game too. So I'm just wondering. I have a little concern that Jalen Hurts won't be making as many plays, big plays, game-changing plays with his leg. Do we just insert the passing plays and think that they're going to cover as many as Jalen had last year? I'm not sure. I hope it's the case, but we'll have to see once the season starts. All right, you got McMullen and McDonald. We will be joined by our buddy John's running mate from Sports Illustrated, Eddie Kratz, joins us next here on Birds 365.